Good afternoon, everybody. It is great to see you, or I should say, virtually see your comments and all of those fun things on this Tuesday of Thanksgiving week. If you're catching me live for Tuesday's tips, if not, we're talking all about culture today and company culture specifically. And all of this started earlier, or actually last week. I was listening to a podcast, and the podcast hosts were talking about a quote that I believe is attributed to Peter Drucker, but there's some disparities on who actually said the quote, that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And I thought about this and I was like, I'm not quite so sure. And then I went to a client site and we were having a discussion about a lot of the struggles people are having in, if they have employees, finding employees right now. Recording this in 2021, the week of Thanksgiving, and you are seeing signs all over on every street corner across the country where fast food places are offering crazy amazing wages for jobs because they can't find workers. Last week, I was doing a training for a group, and one of the statistics, because we were talking about remote work, of all of the job seekers out there, 63% are now looking for remote work or work from home. So, all of these fast food places that are putting up these amazing wages signs and all of those things, they're struggling because over half the workforce that is looking for work does not want to work in person. And many of them, the fast food places, are putting up signs saying, "Hey, we have jobs available and we're going to pay you a ridiculous amount of money to come flip burgers or run a cashier." But many of us have had experiences in those entry level jobs in less than stellar workplaces where, the employees are not treated exactly phenomenal. The schedules are horrible. The managers are typically untrained. And so when things roll downhill, it goes downhill and the employees take the brunt of it. And while the initial impact of those high wages might get more people in your door, if you don't address the culture of the workplace, those people that are going to be in your door will only be there for a short period of time, and they're going to go down the street to see if the next place, who is also paying a ridiculous wage, has a better culture. And I always have people, well, I only have to worry about culture if I have employees. Not true. Think about those solopreneur businesses, and I'm just grabbing this one out of the top of my brain because it's end of year time. Those really cheap tax preparers that kind of have that shabby sign, and you're like, are you really a tax preparer? Do you really have the certifications? And sometimes they're phenomenal because they over deliver. Other times, their business model is, I'm going to charge a really cheap rate and try and process as many things as I can. And I'm going to charge by the page, which nobody ever explains. And it's a really horrible experience. And the next year, the customers are like, ugh, that was awful. They didn't meet deadlines. They didn't deliver what I wanted. They didn't do all of these things. And I had to do all of this extra work myself. As a customer, am I going to go back to that person? Or I'm going to go to the CPA who walks you through and explains and does a ton of stuff for you and makes it super easy for you for the whole next year. Yeah, it's more expensive, but the experience, the culture of the business and how you're working is so much better. Now, don't get me wrong. Strategies are really important. Whether you choose to be the price leader or the premium brand or the underwater basket weaving champion, that strategy is really important. But you have to align that strategy with the culture that you want in your business. If your culture only focuses on the wrong things, like if you are just worried about sales numbers and not worried about the customer experience or profit margin or other pieces, your strategy is going to miss the mark to get to what your culture is trying to achieve. So, the company culture is so much more than that fancy vision statement that I did a video on a couple weeks ago, that you don't really need a fancy vision statement, but you do need to have a purpose and have that underlying how you want to do business, how you want to treat your customers, how you want to treat your employees if you choose to have employees, or how to include independent contractors. And did a podcast a few months ago, and someone asked me, what is the culture? And it's the vibe that you get when you're working with someone. It's the vibe when you walk in their office. It's the vibe when they answer the phone. It is that sense that everybody's on the same page. We're headed in the same direction. And we all value those same basic core immutable laws, if you're a Mike Michalowicz fan, that the culture is innovative, or it's purpose driven, or it could be any number of things. There's no one right culture, but there's a whole lot of wrong cultures. So, the other thing to really remember is throwing money at a strategy without addressing the underlying cultural issues might get you short term results, but it most likely will not get you long term success. Here's an example we see frequently because people want leads. They want more marketing clicks. They want more customers in their business. And so they're going to pay a ton of money in SEO and pay per clicks. And they're going to have this amazing flow of new customers or potential customers coming to their business. But what happens is if you increase the traffic to your business, and it needs to be an all hands on deck, everybody is working to their max capacity, but in your organization, you have a "that's not my job" philosophy. You stay in your own lane, and if it's a customer service thing and you happen to work in accounting, you don't do customer service. When you are throwing money at a solution, everybody has to be ready to work through the process and be ready to, if we're paying for clicks, paying for things, know that those potential customers that are coming in are not going to be waiting around and looking for another solution because nobody gets back to them. Or if we go back to that fast food example, if people are enticed for those phenomenal wages, but then realize that the schedules are awful and the managers are mean and they treat them horrible, they're going to walk. So now, not only have you wasted time training a new person, you're back to having to try and hire more people. And that hiring process is crazy expensive. So, when you're looking at forecasting to 2022 and looking at what strategies you want to use to achieve your goals, you need to make sure that your strategies align with your business vision and the company culture that you anticipate or that you're trying to foster. I just had this discussion with a client when we were talking about performance management. They're really just now starting to look at performance evaluations, performance management. And my clients came from a corporate background where you check the boxes and you get a score and all of these things, and that's going to determine your future, though they're not really accurate. We've talked about this before. And I'm like, but the company culture that you have is very nurturing. It is very much a team environment. And one of your core purposes is to help develop your employees to do more in their own lives, to do more for your company. So, why don't we create a performance management system that is going to help them not only achieve business goals, but achieve their own personal goals? So, that's what we're doing. I mentioned the previous video on the vision. And as part of that journey in developing that vision story, you have to really dig down on your core purpose. And that purpose is going to be the foundation for your company culture. It's going to be that foundational piece that's going to make things happen. So, as you are looking at going into 2022, or if you're watching this in the future, 2023 or 4 or 5, do your strategies that you're crafting support the kind of business and the reputation that you want? Or are you going down that slippery slope that companies like Apple have struggled with because they are an innovative leader, but their manufacturers in China don't align with some of the things that have been happening? And so they've stepped in to try and make some changes so that they have more control over those factories. They have more control so that they're not doing things that don't align with their company culture. Did in your strategy process you get lost along the way, like Apple, focusing on cost savings, short term strategies that are not taking you towards your vision? When your company culture supports your purpose, your customers start to seek you out. Candidates, my client who has an amazing company culture, has people coming to them saying, "We want to work with you. When you're ready for your next opening, please consider us." When you have the company culture that fosters a nurturing environment that is positive, that is trying to help all of the stakeholders, then a lot of things get easier. So focus on your company culture and the strategies get easier to develop, and things become so much more simple in your business. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, go to tanya.tube if you're catching this on Facebook or YouTube or on LinkedIn. Or if you're watching on YouTube, just click that little subscribe button and join me every week for a new business topic to help improve your business.